FBI memos made public today show that the late J. Edgar Hoover ordered a nationwide campaign to disrupt the activities of the New Left without telling any of his superiors about it. He ordered his agents not only to expose New Left groups, but to take action against them to neutralize them.
Wrote FBI Director Hoover, the purpose of the program would be to expose and disrupt the New Left. We must frustrate every effort of these groups and individuals to consolidate their forces or to recruit new or youthful adherents. In every instance, consideration should be given to disrupting the organized activity of these groups. Director Hoover detailed the setup of the program, saying anarchists and revolutionists had to be neutralized if law and order and a civilized society were to survive. One former agent who participated in the program has described how burglaries, forged blackmail letters, and threats of violence were used to try to stop anti-war marches. Many of the techniques were clearly illegal, but justified in the interest of national security. Today, the Justice Department said no Attorney General authorized or knew of the program.
All right, so peace and love, everybody. Welcome to the official first episode of LSO, Listen, Study, Understand. Today, we have a conversation that we need to talk about. It's a lot going on out here. It's certain things that have been going on for way too long that we have to talk about it. And we have to come to different conclusions on what to do, how to do, what to think about, what to look out for. You know, I just want to hop right into it, you know. So when it comes to some of these things that's going on, one thing in particular that bothers me is the fact that there's certain people out there that use different war tactics on different communities to kind of confuse the people and push them in a direction where they don't want to go, don't need to go, then push them in a direction where, hey, you know, you might as well call the whole movement dead at that point. So it could push it into the grave, you know, per se. So one of these things that's been consistent. Now, I don't know exactly what was happening before these times. As far as I'm going to go ahead and say it's the exact same tactics. But this particular one is called Cointelpro. Now with this Cointelpro, we know that it was popularized when it comes to different movements. Of course, the guy, the snake or whatever you want to call him, J. Edgar Hoover, is one of the main members of this organization, and which bringing it to the FBI and pushing it for different illegal tactics. But I just want to break it down because these things, even though it happened in the past, we know that it's still going on today. So I kind of want to break it down to the point so we can actually know what to look out for. So, I mean, if we know all the devil's tricks, then we could just say, hey, you can't fool me this time, devil. You know, so it's just we just have to really take a look and see exactly what's going on, you know, so it won't be so easy to be fooled, you know. So I wanna say that first as an introduction, sister, before we get into it. I want you to, of course, introduce yourself again for the people that may forgot or haven't or don't know at all, and then we can hop right into it.
Shalom, family. This is Cointelpro, host of Cointelpro Speaks on Facebook and soon to be on YouTube. And I want to thank my brother OCTHEGREAT for having me as a co-host on Listen, Study, Overstand. I'm just a sister here that's trying to support my brother in his efforts for us to come together as a nation of people to overstand what it is and how we are to walk in this life as we are here today, and what we should be looking forward to, how we can come together, plan, and put together, discuss topics and find solutions to the issues that are affecting us as a community, as a nation of people. And so, with that said, I think this is a tremendous, a great topic, a tremendous topic to handle with Cointelpro, because it's really deep and is a fitting topic for what the current time is, especially when everyone from the other nations are claiming that tomorrow is going to be D-Day. When I say that in air quotations, D-Day. So, let's get right into it, and what's going to happen tomorrow, and how that relates to Cointelpro, and how that relates to us as a people.
Absolutely. And tomorrow you saying Wednesday, correct? Because Wednesday this may be aired, and so it could possibly be today, depending on when I put this out. So definitely Wednesday. Wednesday is the
Yeah,
day. And
that is correct. That's correct. The day of the so-called, isn't it supposed to be the inauguration day on Wednesday?
yeah, supposedly, or whatever it's going to look like, because we know that we're number one, we're dealing with COVID and things like that. Then number two, there's some other things that was put in place just recently, as far as the people that bum rush. If I could say bum rush, I really feel like it was a bunch of actors that just walked into the White House, and did what they was asked to do. But that's neither here or there. But that's inauguration, if you want to call it that. And I feel like that would be very interesting, an interesting thing to see and witness, because it's a different time. We in different times, you know. So I don't think anything like this happened before, if I don't recall. I don't know.
No, I've not in my lifetime, but as a Black female growing up, I've always had great affection towards how our people were united during the times of Jim Crow, and also during the times of the Civil Rights Movement, where we actually saw Black families with the father, the mother, and the children trying to do things to so-called be successful in this American society. And so right now, where it stands is that we got to start looking at what is the Black family doing now, and does that mirror what we did back then? And what we did back then was we was united on one cause. We was on one code. And I think that that's something that's lacking today. So I look forward to exploring that with you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, although I didn't live in those times, but for what I study and what I seen, excuse me, what I studied and what I seen, I actually seen, from what I study, of course, that the fact that there was a bunch of different groups, and it was different people living on different codes. There was so many different organizations. Of course, in a certain time there were the Black Panther Party. I mean, they had other organizations like RAM and so many other ones. Like there's probably at least 100 different ones that's calling for some type of action in those times. So although we do have organizations today, but I feel like it was different. It wasn't much of fighting each other that much until something came out, until the FBI actually decided to create something around that time, which we know today is Cointelpro. But I feel like like you said, it was more together. So it's more about just fighting the system and not fighting each other. So today, it seems it seems to be us not fighting the system. I don't know. I don't see too much of that at all. So for certain organizations, yes, but most, nothing like how it used to be. But I could be mistaken.
Well, for me, it's, when you mentioned fighting Cointelpro, that would be the government, because the government, funds Cointelpro, funds the CIA, That's the people who actually instituted Cointelpro, it's the CIA. And they came up with all kind of propaganda, and they also put, agents that infiltrated all those um, different groups that you spoke about. And when we talk about how we fought COINTELPRO back then, we fought them back by staying united. However, they were able to infiltrate because there are some of us who uh, didn't have, and so they were offering certain things, or there were certain of us that got caught up in certain situations that where the pressure was put on us, where we would fold to the pressure to save our own selves rather than save the community. And from that, they were able to infiltrate because some of us were weak, is what I'm trying to say. And with that weakness, we were paid off, or we were bribed, or we were what you called, you know, put strong on pressure on you to do these things so that you can save yourself because you didn't did some things that what they call was illegal. And that's how they were able to infiltrate. That's how they were able to gain secrets. That's how they were able to know the area of Fred Hampton, which was the leader of the Black Panthers organization back then. That's how they knew the layout, the floor plan of his apartment and building and everything. And that's how they were able to murder him because someone on the inside gave up that information.
Right.
And someone inside was one of us. And that someone that's on the inside that was one of us was a weak individual that may have been caught up in certain kind of financial things where they needed that money, or they had already had a run-in with these government officials where they was able to uh, uh, put that over their head. So um, with that leads to where we are today, whereby we're on social media and we're putting all these things out about our individual selves, and they're collecting all this information. Like you say, it is still going on. COINTELPRO is still going on because it's nothing. COINTELPRO means counterintelligence, right? And that is to protect and to seek out and to defend the American government against anybody who would be considered a dissident, meaning you go against the government, whether you're whether they call black identity extremists, BIE, or whether you be from the Proud Boys that's on tape, as you recently probably seen, saying they want to take down this government because all the politicians are crooked, right? So COINTELPRO is collecting all this information, all this data on us, and to figure out collectively as a nation of people how to fight against what I call COINTELPRO 2.0. Because as of right now, we are the unconsenting agents of the CIA through social media.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely true. And and when it comes to just social media in general, we already know there's so many facial recognition engines that's built into our phones. It's not only, outside. I know it at some point. I think in the early 2000s or something like that, they was talking about the Big Brother programs, how they was putting cameras here and there just so they can spy on us and get certain information. We at the point where they don't even have, like, we have all this technology. Something as simple as, like, let's just say Facebook, for example. Um, somebody random could post a picture of me, and Facebook would ask me, is this you? And that's interesting how even the picture has its own facial recognition engine there. And I mean, some of us also know that the owner of Facebook also works side and side with the FBI. You know, there's articles that actually that talks about that the FBI actually could speak with people of owners of social media and to get documents. One thing I do know, that it doesn't matter what you delete. Once it hits the web, it's on the web forever. You know, so someone can take a picture of you, put it on the web. It's going to be there forever. You know, so it's no erasing any of that. You know, so these type of things, I think that's one of the things that was set up strategically to get our information, to spy on us, to really do whatever they needed to do to really find us. You know, they have cameras everywhere in St. Louis, um, and in other states. I noticed, especially in Chicago, I noticed that they have these cameras on each stoplight. You know, so and I was actually told by a gentleman with attended this meeting where that's actual facial recognition tools that they use. So once you drive by, you know, if it catch your face, then it puts you in a facial recognition system. So they'll know exactly where you going. If you hop in the car, let's say if they're looking for you, one of the cameras will catch you, and then boom, you know, they got you. Especially if you have a phone or a computer or anything that has a camera, you know. So it's very interesting with that as far as those tactics. Now you mentioned something, because this is actually because it's 5 points when it comes to Cointelpro, especially for the one back in the day, which we know that is still going on today. Now you mentioned infiltration, you know. So although we doing it to ourselves, but what is it, if we were to break this down? Number one, infiltration. How could we get? How could we not be infiltrated? So say if we just so happen to be on code, what can we do as a people? I just want to bounce it off of you. What can we do as a people to not be infiltrated? I, so if we're already on the code, then we know that this is not a weak person that we're dealing with because we all on code. But when it comes to somebody else coming into our circle, what can we do to not be infiltrated?
First thing I would say that with any organization that you're going to start up, you have to do that with the blessing of uh, your higher power, right? Because you can't do any of these things by yourself without realizing the higher power. Whatever you pray to, whatever it is that you have faith in, whether it be yourself as the supreme God that you think you are, or whether it be that you think there is a supreme God, you need to start with that to make sure that that's what it is that you're supposed to be doing.
Mm,
Because right now in this day and age, there's a lot of forces out here that can put it on your mind and make you act in the flesh and make you think that it's, you know, it's about you, and it's really not, and it will lead you to damnation. So
mm,
you could be in a perpetual circle uh of a roller coaster ride that you cannot get off. So you need to start with like-minded people. Once
mm,
you have prayed and confirmed within your spirit that this is the thing that you should be doing, then you conspire with like-minded people. Anybody who's not on that particular code in which your spirit told you to do these things, if their spirit is not in line with that, or they have some ulterior motive with that,
mm.
uh, they say, I want to do this with you, but I got this as well. Then you have to like say, you have to give that a pause, right? That's when you're going to have to also go back and pray on that particular individual, meditate on that particular individual to find out, you know, where that spirit is coming from. And if it's not in line with what your spirit tells you to do, I think you need to let that go.
Mm.
Then once you align yourself with like-minded people, then we have to understand order, because a lot of people want to be chiefs, but they don't have nothing but ending in skills. And that's not to say that their skills are not worthy, but in all things it must be order. Otherwise, there's chaos, which is what we witnessed 2 weeks ago and what we're going to witness on tomorrow. So somebody has to lead, and then you have to have followers. That's just like with the podcast. You're leading the podcast, and you're hoping to gain followers to change and affect, make a effective change on our lives and how we move forward, how we navigate through what I call the daughter of Babylon, which is America.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I say we root out infiltrators. We align ourselves. We understand what our purpose is, what our mission is, and make sure that it is what it is, and it's not fake. Because if you yourself have some type of ulterior motive, then your situation is going to be flawed. But if you're concrete and you're going to stand on your mission, then you align yourself with like-minded people. And if at any point in time, those what we deemed as like-minded people show themselves to be not aligned with that, make no mistake about it. Do not give them the benefit of the doubt. You get rid of those people. You dust your feet and you walk away. That's how you keep your organization. That's how you rid your organization of infiltrators. Everybody got to be vetted. Vetted by their word, vetted by their word, and also vetted by their works. You better watch these people in these days, because our own people sometimes are sent, like you say, to destroy us. So you watch everybody, and you pray and you ask for discernment. That's what I'm at with it all.
Absolutely. And I agree 100%. So, I mean, there's a reason why different organizations or anybody for that matter would set up a code, So, like, even in our own homes, we have to have some type of order, some type of rules and regulations or laws for our own home, for our children or anyone that come inside of our home. Like, hey, this is my house. All right, here's all the rules. This is set. You don't even have to tell them the purpose, but if you happen to tell them the purpose, it's set for this. If you don't like these rules, you can get out. You don't even have to come in. So you have to abide by these rules or else. So this the reason why we set up codes, so we can tell an individual or a group of people, like, hey, this is what it is, and it's this for a reason. If you don't want to be down with this, then go do something else. Be a part of something else. So and even like, I mean, I'll be honest. When it comes to success, there's definitely something to study. So I say it here. Our oppressors, and our enemies, they are successful at what they're doing. But what I noticed, if you study them, because it is important to study the people that's against you, so you'll know exactly how they move. Now, one thing is set up is they have different laws, they have different codes, and different things that they push for us. Now, I've seen law in different libraries, like libraries just huge, full with different codes and laws and things like that for people to follow. So it's important to be on code. Now they have different groups that know different things, that could get definitely deeper when it comes to different codes. It's almost like it's almost like a pyramid scheme how they have it set up. People at the bottom, they only know so much. The people above that brick, they know a little more, and so on and so on, until they get to the very top. Then it's a certain individual, and you could call that possible a leader, the person that knows it all, that knows most everything. That these are the people that follow whoever, I'm gonna say, set up the codes, or just the carrier of all the codes or whatnot. So it's very important to set that up. And if you get outside the code, then okay, then this person must be infiltrated. No, it doesn't matter if they were sent by the FBI or anybody. Like, if you don't want to abide by these codes, you just gotta leave, because it's just not gonna work. It's just not. Now you're causing chaos in your own community, because you got different people thinking different things, it's just chaos, you know. So you never know exactly what's gonna go on if you got different people on different pages. So we have to think in a way not only for if I could say being a war strategist. You know, even if you're not at war, of course we know in our own homes, it's just like, hey, if you don't want to abide by the rules, then go. You know, because this is what's going to make us feel comfortable or make me feel comfortable. You know, and it's the reason why I set rules. Without rules, then what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
I agree with you 100%. The rule is the code, right? The rules
Absolutely.
is the code, right? So
Yeah.
I remember growing up, and my mama used to say, "What goes on in this house stays in this house."
That's absolutely. Yeah,
That's code.
that's a code.
That's code. Now, when you're no longer a part of this house, then you don't speak on what happened in that house.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm talking about? When
Absolutely.
you're no longer a part of the house, whatever went on in that house when you was with that house, just stay in that house. That was the code. That was like an oath that you signed up for. And
Right.
now that you're no longer part of that house, what kind of person are you to go ahead and violate the code that you swore an oath to? You understand what I'm saying? Now you
Absolutely.
look like a traitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you do if you no longer rocking with that particular house, if you go and align yourself with another house that's that was on the same that had the same mission, but may have a different code. Because obviously you're not rocking with their codes, their rules, which is why you're no longer part of that house. But you won't go and tell everybody
Right.
what's going on in our house.
Exactly.
You go get you another house. You know what? That's what you need to do, but you keep your mouth shut. And that's what our people are doing. They're running their mouth,
Mm.
because they own their feelings. They got to let everybody know that they feeling a certain kind of way.
Oof.
Say, bro, that's
Huh?
I'm say, bro, that's not on code.
Not at all.
I mean, that's showing that you become a disgruntled employee at that point. That's what you look like,
I mean,
right?
we tell our babies all the time, like, hey, don't you tell anybody on what goes on in this home. You know,
That's what we're
what
talking
goes
about.
on in
That's
this
how I was
home,
raised.
you keep it
That's how I
between
was
us.
raised.
You know, so it's amazing that we have to tell adults to keep things just within this community. Like we don't have to bring it outside. You know, it's amazing that we have to tell adults that. But I mean, that brings me to the point where do we actually have a community? I mean, we talk about the black community, but do we even have a community? Like it's
We
that.
talk, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
You know, Cointelpro worked in a sense, and also the Willie Lynch letter worked, right? Because the number one mission of Cointelpro is to keep us divided. Remember, Hoover said he doesn't want to see a black messiah. That's it. It's over for America if America allows a black messiah to rise and unite. So when we start to overstand that out, that they've already written what their number one fear is, that goes back to how we can keep them from infiltrating. Know thy enemy. Your enemy is not your brethren. Your enemy is the people that has written documents on why you could never or why they should never see you unite, and then wrote documents on what they gonna do to you if you do. And that is why they silenced Grandmaster Jay, because he was all too close. He's supposed to be having a million guns formation or a million man formation in April. You think in the middle of an insurrection? Oh, they got convenient timing to silence this brother, and then they try to take down the Fred Hampton Gun Club Instagram page. What that's about? Why you silencing that brother? Why? Because Cointelpro 2.0 with the social media, us members, followers, friends as their agents. So they know who's connected to who, and they know who they need to silence. This is real talk.
Yeah.
And if we don't start connecting these dots and start to know who our enemy is, we will never stop them from infiltrating. And the thing is, now their God is so whereby they could make you think that a member of your group is fighting against you by sending bogus messages because they got control of all your IP addresses. That, like you say with Facebook, that was the point of Facebook.
Okay.
Where we're sharing who our friends are, all our friends, and then they came up a long time ago. I think maybe back in 2009, 2010, you can select, oh, this is my mama, this is my auntie, this is my nephew.
Oh, yeah.
And we did that.
Yeah.
And we did that.
Connect
Okay,
the
so they know
dots.
exactly who you are. And then they came up with these challenges, 40-year challenge. Oh, well, let's see what you look like now that it's been 10 years since you've been on Facebook. Put up a picture. What do you look like now? And we did that. And then they came up, there's a new one that came up recently. Give us your friends. I mean, give me a picture of your family, your children. I don't know if it's a 12-year-old challenge or if you got kids that's 12-year-olds, but I know that one of my ops shared his child picture, and I was like, really? After all we discussed, and you still want to just serve the child up to social Facebook recognition where they're running what they call a Cointelpro intelligence gathering operation? Oh, know thy enemy in this hour. That's how we stay on code. And that's how we stop it from infiltrating.
Absolutely. Now we really should know better as a people, just based on just history in general, and what happened to, let's just say Martin Luther King first off, because his so-called birthday just passed, even though his birthday was kind of, you know how they celebrate the weekend, push his birthday back on the weekend and stuff like that. So, but yeah, they even did that brother wrong, listening to his conversations and infiltrating his organizations and so many other things. It almost seemed like it's the same tactics that happen over and over and over again. Even to this day. I mean, you said 2.0, and I'm looking at it because nowadays it's all over the web. I mean, when I think about these boards that they do in movies, right? They say, okay, here's the leader, all right, and then all right, here's connected to the leader. They just have a whole tree of different people. I mean, we basically doing that ourselves, with just like what you were saying with Facebook. We're putting like, okay, here's my cousin, here's my brother, here's my child, things like that. We basically connecting the dots for them. We doing everything for them. They make their work super easy.
Exactly.
All they have to do is
We're
ask for your information, and they could really scalp the web to find everything that they need to know about you. When the last time? Because I mean, we doing so many things online. We even paying for stuff online and stuff like that. So they know exactly when you use your card. They know exactly where you spend your money, exactly what areas you be in. They know exactly what you do every day. So like, oh, this person been at home all day. Okay, oh, this must be this person's day off, or this, and so they are aware of everything that we do, and then we give them so much information because they have access to the web to find out many different things about us. They probably know stuff about us that we don't even know. So it gets deep now. it brings me to this next point, because like I said, it's 5 points when it comes to Cointelpro on the different tactics, 5 different tactics. So the next one is psychological warfare. All right. So with psychological warfare, and let's use Grandmaster Jay for example, since his name was brought up. All right. So the psychological warfare. Now we should know about the FBI by now and all their dirty tricks that they play and things like that. So if you think about it, exactly what's going on with the organization, as far as the black militant, black militia, in fact, things like that, we know that it's a lot of other people. It's a lot of other people that think different. You know, a lot of people of our color skin that think different than that. Like, oh, why should we have a militia? Why should we have this? Why should we have this? But on top of that, you also have the FBI playing games as well. So it'll get to the point where you don't even know exactly who from who. Okay, is this person hired from the FBI, or is this a actual bot on a computer, FBI bot just typing this or saying this and that? Or even when it comes to YouTube, for example, you know, is this an actual person, or is this someone that's hired by the FBI to say this? You know, to say something like this. You know, we have so many different people that on different social media platforms saying different things to kind of counteract on, you know, any type of word that's been spoken or anything that's said. I mean, the psychological thing about it is it really it plays with our mind. You know, it pushes us in a way where, okay, I don't really know what to believe. You know, so that's one of the tactics that they use, using different pseudo like informations and having pseudo movements and different things where you don't know what from what, especially if you're not really using your mind and saying, basically doing what you said earlier, as far as actually reaching, either you reaching deep in self, or you asking for help, possibly the Most High, or anybody, to know exactly the information that you're getting is righteous. You know, so it's interesting that they use psychological warfare as a tactic. You know, but what do you think about that? It's like psychological warfare. Like that's crazy to me.
Well, psychological warfare is part of the plan that goes is written embedded in the Cointelpro um, plan, for lack of better words.
Mm,
The CIA created TV. CIA controlled media when TV was first put before people's eyes. They created it in order to do a mass propaganda program, in order to sell war, in order to sell the war to the Americans. If you can recall, when TV first came out, they were trying to, go to war and try to get the garner American support to send the troops overseas to fight in a war that had nothing to do with America. And so they had to come up with all different kind of propaganda
so
slogans and things of that nature. Uncle
so
Sam wants you.
yeah,
All
so
of those
they use it
things
as a
were
brainwash
CIA,
tool, right? Right.
right, to get you, to gear you to think a certain kind of way, which is
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing right now on several fronts. First, you got the COVID, right?
Mm,
And so every day on national TV, you see numbers about the COVID, people dying, and how many people have been infected.
mm-hmm.
That's a propaganda thing for people who watch the news all the time, to get them to feel like, oh, psychological warfare, to get them to feel like, oh, a lot of Americans are dying, and they need to do,
They,
the government need to do something to combat this pandemic.
they just did a I just checked the number yesterday. They did something on it where it says 400,000 people died from COVID. 400,000. They just said that yesterday. I'm like, oh, really? That's interesting. But
And
yeah,
then when you ask them, well, how many people died from the flu in 2020? It's silence, just like you just did. It's
right,
silence
right,
because everybody who, uh, they're paying hospitals. I believe it was $32,000 if you put a patient on a ventilator, and I believe it was like maybe $18,000 or something like that, or 20 something $1,000 if you say they had COVID. If you just hospitalized them for COVID and they were dismissed. So the hospitals who were affected by Obamacare, because he called himself trying to correct that, where hospitals were charging astronomical prices for prescription drugs that you were receiving while in the hospital, but then Medicaid and Medicare had to pick up the cost. And Obama said, Obamacare said, no, hold up, we're going to have a standard price for these medications. Then hospitals started losing money because that's how they make their money. They make their money from feeding you and giving you prescription drugs while you're there. And so because of that, they had to make their money back. So you go to the hospital, and so everybody that goes in there, regardless if you have a common cold and you just want to get an antibiotic to stop the infection that's going on in your body, because that's what it is, or if you are basically having a freaking heart attack. You go in there, you go in there for a heart attack, and they say you got upper respiratory conditions, which is a condition of COVID, and they say you got COVID, and then you died of a heart attack as a condition of having COVID,
right,
right? But they
right.
don't list your death heart attack; they list your death as COVID,
Yeah,
and that's why the numbers are what they are.
yeah,
So we have to understand that while they're pumping up all these COVID deaths, and while they're also telling us on the back end that people with underlying conditions are more susceptible to COVID, then we have to stop and pause and think. That is what we have to study. Well, if we have an underlying condition and then we get COVID, COVID exacerbates the underlying condition. And so if you have a heart attack,
right. You there, sister? I can't hear you. I think
I'm
maybe.
sorry, at one point that I cut off because for some reason my computer did something really weird. But what I was saying is that if you go into the hospital for a heart attack, you have the symptoms, upper respiratory conditions, and they say that your underlying condition was exacerbated by COVID. They don't list your death as a heart attack. They list your death as having COVID, even though you already had an underlying condition. That's what we have to understand. The propaganda of the CIA is all about COVID right now. That's what they're pushing. That's what they're pushing. And then the other front is the Black Lives Matter and the police. Well, you have to have an opponent, right? If you saying Black Lives Matter, then who's your enemy? It's the police. That's what they want you to think. Actually, it's the mandates that's coming down from the powers that be,
Right,
from the state that's run by the CIA, because
right.
their ultimate goal is to take control of the people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we know that the police was only put in place anyway to protect big business. So with that said, we should know that they are controlled by big business. And to even look at that even deeper, once people actually get into law, study law, they'll know that United States itself is an actual business and corporation. So there,
Yes.
therefore, um, the police are controlled by United States. They may say that it's separate or with different entities, different states or whatnot, but it's it's all how they word it. That's their type of code that they put in place, but it's all the same thing. Now, what's interesting is the fact that um, after it was Black Lives Matter, then all of a sudden they counteract with saying Blue Lives Matter. But on the same note, we these same people actually rushed the White House and harassed the police officer. Even some police officers did the exact same thing. Now, if the U.S. actually controls the police and everything, pretty much everything under the U.S. or the army, all of that, then do blue lives actually matter then? Because the way they reacted towards the White House, it almost seemed like you don't even respect the U.S. decisions. Like how do something like that happen? You know, a bunch of people rushing the White House and basically barking orders. And number one, there's the police around. They disrespecting the police. Okay, I guess blue lives don't really matter. It only matters when it comes to black people. You know.
Well, I just have to say that you asked, how does that happen? How do you see a bunch of people who claim they're patriots go against their so-called government? You could chunk that up to the propaganda that was fed to the orange pervert who just happened to be the president of the United States currently.
Right.
That's how it happens. That's how it happens. They put their puppets in office. They put their president of this corporation in office. He's elected, or is he selected, right? Because that's what that whole insurrection thing was about. People feeling like, no, Donald Trump really won, and the American people voice was not heard. You guys are putting in who you want to have in, which is what they call the deep state. So we have to think about why they put out a movie such as The Matrix.
Mm.
The red pill or the blue pill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that your only options? I thought this was a free society.
Mm.
Speaking of Grandmaster Jay, he ran for president of the United States on an independent ticket, but I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't vote. I'm gonna tell you, last time I voted was the first time Obama got into office.
Okay.
So I don't participate in their system.
Yeah.
So because I have a revelation, understand what I'm saying?
I feel you.
That this is a game. What we're doing is watching the movie being played out. The script has already been written a long time ago. Read Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma. Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a 4-star general for the Confederacy of the United States. He's also a Freemason, and majority, if not all of your presidents of the United States have been Freemasons.
But Albert Pike in general, he's also the person that founded KKK.
Well, see, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So know thy enemy.
Uh-huh.
They traded in the hood for suits because they on code. They on code. We can't just be black though. We can't just represent code of just being black, and anything that don't represent black, we dust our feet and walk away from and don't be affiliated with. That's code.
Yeah. And
I'm
use
just
their
a code teacher,
system.
you know what I'm saying? I'm just a little black girl from New Orleans, Louisiana. I don't know nothing.
Right. I mean, they use their legal system as their code. I mean, even saying black in a courtroom, it doesn't really stand up in a court of law. So, like, if you say you're black, then you look in the law's dictionary and you find out that black don't really mean anything. It's not represented by actual country or anything. So it's like, okay, now you're using codes to identify on who are actual human being or a flesh and blood person really is, because even person means something different than what we understand in law. A person is an actual. You could refer that to a corporation as well. So it gets deep when they talk about their codes. We could think they're speaking plain English, then to turn around and actually look at some of their codes, then it's going to mean something totally different. It's kind of similar to how we talk as melanated people. When it comes to like what we would call what some people would call ebonics or broken English and things like that. We could literally be saying English in front of somebody, but they don't even understand exactly what we are saying. Because we could be speaking in a hood dialect where not too many other people can understand unless you're from that hood. So they do the same thing with legalese is what they call it. So that's part of their code that they use to keep others down, people like us down, So it's interesting that we talked about so much and we only on the second point. It's super deep, this Cointelpro operation. Because going into the third point, it's just the third tactic I'm gonna say is the fact that they actually use harassment via the legal system. So I'll give you this one for example. Let's talk about Grandmaster Jay again. So we know that they did something similar, real similar to how they did the brother Fred Hampton. How they found his residence and really just ran up in there. Now Fred Hampton, we know that they shot up the place. Now, but when it comes to Grandmaster Jay, they kicked down his door and arrested him. Now I don't know if he was asleep or he was just chilling or anything. I don't know everything, and it's probably bad to say exactly what happened at this moment because he's still going through it. He's still having these legal issues, but all of it is harassment. Now, if I can go outside and let's just say if I have any type of weapon on me or anything, and it's legal because that is my Second Amendment right. So you mean to tell me anybody could say anything that would cause the FBI to kick down my door and arrest me? That's not making sense. So you mean to tell me that I'm actually I'm guilty and to prove it innocent? That to me that's a little backwards. So how do you get a warrant and kick down my door, arrest me, and tell me to do certain things like be quiet, don't say anything on social media, or don't say anything, don't go here or there. You can't fly, you can't drive, and we haven't even battled this out in court yet. How's that possible? But
they did what they did was they gathered intelligence on the brother. They went back. They have access to his military records.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So they went back and they gathered all. You have to see the charging document to understand how they had the authority to silence him, because it's all about what the attorney, the prosecuting attorney can present to the judge for probable cause as to if this person has the propensity based on their past actions to do certain things. And based on, and according to the charging documents, based on the things that the brother was saying on his social media account, right, gave the prosecuting attorney, I guess, evidence to say, no, this person should be silenced because he has the propensity to incite violence, is what they use. The term, the legal, like you say, legality, the legal term that they use, they have the propensity. Now, how would they know that he had the propensity if they was not watching and reviewing and listening to all of his, all of his podcasts between well, we know the ones, right? And so they were listening for those sound bites, right, to say and they presented that to the judge, and the judge made the decision that not during this time, during the time where our nation is so divided. This would definitely be a threat to our democracy and to our way of life, their way of life. Ain't got nothing to do with our way of life, but their way of life.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's crazy that really they get to do what they want to do, and it almost fall into the category of what I like to say, I'm white and I say so. A category where they are able to actually just point a finger and look at the law and say, okay, this person could fall under this law that we could take them down for, or we could take them or her down for, So, and it's very interesting how we know that they don't use these same tactics that much or at all to themselves, to people that of a white color skin or so on, or even different celebrities. I haven't heard anything when it comes to any noticeable person of their culture and the FBI using these tactics. Now I heard of some in the past, but I don't know exactly how, because they put like different gangsters on articles when it comes to Cointelpro. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, really, J. Edgar Hoover only really had something to say. He had a lot to say when it comes to black leadership, So, and that was his biggest objective, and that's the reason why this organization that's known as Cointelpro is actually exists. So even when they had the legal things that's going on in the courtroom with the FBI, I mean, I could honestly say like, okay, they still doing the exact same thing. So what actually happened in the courtroom when they actually said these are illegal? You can't do this. You can't operate like that as an entity under the FBI. You can't do this. Now to get to the point where they're doing the exact same things, it's very interesting to me. So I mean,
Do you feel the nation is in trouble?
I think very definitely it is.
Well, what is the answer?
The answer is vigorous law enforcement.
That's the only answer.
That's the only answer.
How about justice? You hear a lot about justice with law enforcement.
Justice is merely incidental to law and order.
And it says to law enforcement at the local level, we can take the gloves off now. We don't have to respect the civil liberties, and we can go after them with everything we got.
Police say there was sniper fire throughout the early morning hours, so they moved in cautiously.
Police and Black Panthers clash in Houston, New Orleans, and other cities.
Black Panther police against the Black Panther Party across the country. On
Friday, the Watts office of the Black Panther Party was bombed and demolished. Last week, the Des Moines office was bombed. This week, they raided the San Francisco office. So they come in and shoot us and shoot tear gas in our office and drag people off to jail like they've lost their minds.
You look black, but you don't know who you are. You don't know where you're from. You've been given a slave name and a slave mentality.
A slave hates himself. A slave hates his skin. A slave hates his natural kinky hair. Give a gun to a slave and he'll kill his own brother.
How long are you going to cry and blame your oppressor before you get up off your knees and do it your goddamn self?
Know the 10 points. If you don't, you do not know what you are living and dying for.
You got to make a distinction. The people are going to have to stand up against the pig. That's what the Panthers are doing. That's what the Panthers are doing all over the world. They can do anything they want to us. I am a revolutionary.
After that good doctor is gone, there'll never be another black messiah unless we create him.
anything that the FBI and the CIA is doing right now is classified. You know, we know about the BIE because that was leaked. Now, why was that leaked? That's the propaganda. See, they operate the whole premise of the powers that be. And we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle against spirits, spiritualities, higher principalities, right? So that's what we're wrestling against in this hour. So they're gonna put laws in place to keep us down through their minions, what we call the CIA and the FBI, and it's gonna look like they're all together to try to help us alleviate our oppression, but at the same time they send what we say infiltrators, but they're the opposing side. So in other words, they create the chaos, they create the division, they create the confusion in order to bring about the order that they want, the power control that they want, the psychological control, the mind manipulation that they want. They want just workers, they just want servants of the system with no moral compass, with no sense of family, with no sense of unity. They don't want that. You keep going back to J. Edgar Hoover, and I keep going back to saying that he said the United States government greatest nightmare is to have a Black Messiah that can unite the Black community. We are identifying who the enemy is. So whatever we see them doing as a collective, regardless of their Democrat or Republican or independent at this point, they're all part of the same game to do what? Oppress us continually. That's what all their laws is about. You wrote the Constitution, then we say, oh no, we're not. We's people too. So you give us the what is the 13th Amendment where they say that you know you're free. No man should be a slave except if we arrest your Black ass. That part. So the laws that they're putting on the books is the laws that keep us oppressed and keep us serving them for their greater power. For their power to rule over what we like to call the first people of the earth.
Absolutely.
The gods of the earth.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. I mean, it's very interesting because we've seen this time and time. Like I said before, we've seen this time and time again. And it's almost like us as a people, like we really ignore these different signs, these different things. I don't know if we are too comfortable or no. I mean, I can't see how we could be comfortable with police brutality and all these things that's happening to us. Uh, and especially when it comes to the school system. I mean, there's so many different things with our children, and they're just happening to us. I don't know how. Like, what is going on with our minds? Is this a psychological thing that's going on with our minds to get us to the point where we see these things, but we don't want to even talk about it or bring it up or even do anything about it, as a people. That's very interesting. Now I'm thinking, when it comes to the psychological part, because that brings me to the fourth tactic that they use, and the fourth tactic that they use is legal force, or should I say illegal force that they use now to actually see things, because we live in an internet age. We live in an age where when it comes to, and I'm gonna go ahead and call it lynchings. When it comes to lynchings that happened in the past, it was more things that people heard about You know, so it was invisible, and unless you was there. If you wasn't there, then you heard about it. You know, um, and all of these lynchings and things like that. I mean, it's hard for us to really take this in to know that it was legal. It was a legal thing to do. So although they may say certain things is illegal, but once you bring it into a court of law and really look at it, like, okay, is it illegal? Well, is that illegal? Well, he did this, he did, or she did this and that. Okay, well, it's good. Now that's what helps them get away with so many crimes that they do towards humanity, towards our people. Now the thing is, they use this as a tactic to say, hey, look at what we can do. All right. So if you try this, we will do this. And guess what? It's nothing you can do about it. I feel like they pushing that agenda in front of our eyes as far as a tactic, saying like, hey, even with Grandmaster Jay, we could kick down your door too. You know, we could say that you do something, you better be careful. Oh, okay. What do you think is going to happen the next time you do a guns formation? How many people you think we can arrest then? If we could take down your leader, don't you think we could take down you too? So I feel like they use that as a tactic as far as the legal force, just to kind of put that in front of you. Now we know about the different beatings that the police did, like I say, police brutality, but even with the FBI and assassinations, the assaults, vandalism, you know, so many different things to frighten our people, to get us to thinking like, hey, even if we do the right thing, is it worth it? You know, um, this is a very interesting one to me as well. I mean, all of them is interesting, but to think it's a people is exactly like, okay, once you get to the point where it's something that we can, I know it's something that I can do. I want to do something, and you actually put it into action. Like, what can a person like? How should our mind actually be? You know, to know that, okay, you putting your life on the line, and to get to the point where like I don't care that my life is on the line. Although I care about my life, I care about the people. But how can a person get to this stage where I'm going to be able to fight no matter what's the cost or anything? You know, because we know how these people act. We know that they could do things legally, even though it's illegal. But it's their laws, it's their rules and code. They can do exactly what they want to do it. But how can we get to the point where a person could say like, hey, I want to be free by any means necessary? Like, how can we get to that point?
To be honest with you, I cannot deny my faith, right? So I just got to give it to you 100. I'm going to speak first on two whys. First is individual, and that's why I talk about my faith. Like, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. I fear no man, no matter where they are, and no matter what they do, what they're conspiring in their minds to do against me. My higher power tells me that they can't harm me because I know who I am, number one, and I know whose I am, number two. Our people have no idea who they are and whose they are as a people. You talked about Black not being recognized in the court of law. You are absolutely right. Because after all, Black is a color. You can find Black in the crayon box, but you cannot find Black in historical documents from the days of antiquities, even in what we call the Egyptian text. We don't have the color Black. What we have is nations of people. So if you don't know what nation of people you belong to, then you're not going to be able to have a faith in where you're going, and therefore we can never be united as a people to subscribe to anything as a united front. They will never respect us because we're all about the individual, right? My family. You know what I'm saying? We say, I got mine, they better get theirs. So they have to officially just destroyed us as a nation. Or who allowed that to happen? Or what power allowed that to happen to us? And so why did that happen to us? Who allowed it? Why did it happen? Who are you? If you're not Black, then what are you? What nation of people are you? Who are you? Until you find that out, my faith stands with my higher power that gives me strength to endure the psychological warfare, because I recognize the demons that are doing all these things. I recognize why they're doing these things. They're doing these things to continue to destroy a nation of people who the higher power has favored throughout history. There's a reason why we're the best in everything. There is a reason why we have endured all of the atrocities and we still keep multiplying, yet they're having a problem with populating the earth. The scriptures told us and gave the first man that they say was created, Adam, a charge. Go out, be fruitful, and multiply. They're having a grave problem with that in this hour, but we are not.
That's a
And
fact.
that's something we have to really consider in this hour. So when we understand, when we overstand that we need to know thy enemy, understand who we are and whose we are, then we can come together as a collective nation, because everybody's going to be saying, I'm this nation, I'm this people, and so then we're going to say, oh no, can't nobody come against our nation, regardless till we know we got some people in our nation that's just some trifling individuals. We want that to the higher power to decide what's going to be their fate. In the meantime, in between time, we're going to stay united on code as a people. So I went from the individual to the community, and if people can't overstand that, and I ask them, I implore them just to go check it out for themselves, understand how we have been oppressed throughout all ages of time. And Jesus was not Black. I mean, Jesus was not white. He's a Black man.
Absolutely.
So the greatest book of all time is telling you why they're doing it to you when you read it. That's why they're doing it to us. It's psychological warfare, because it's not actual person that we're fighting.
And it's like
it's not actual person that we're fighting. What we living for? Because as sure as you're born, you're gonna die. So what you're living for?
Gotta find purpose. You know, definitely gotta find purpose. So I mean, the biggest thing is, I mean, you said it, just having faith. You know, so you gotta have faith in what you're doing. You know, that what you're doing is righteous. Giving your life purpose. So if I don't do this, just like you said, what are you living for? Like, what are you here for? Are you just here to make money, make fiat, or are you here to just play around? Like, what are you here for? You know, so you have to have purpose. You have to give your life purpose. So it gets you to the point where that legal force that you're showing me, that's not going to stop what I need to do. You know, that's not going to stop my purpose. You know, so you could continue moving forward with your faith, because if you have faith, it's like tunnel vision. You can see exactly what's at the end. All you doing is just walking forward, and you keep.
It's a narrow road. It's narrow. It's so narrow.
Absolutely.
But Only the strong will survive. See, all these little cliches that we use is a reason why we're using these cliches amongst ourselves. Only the strong will survive. Or what you gonna say in the moment of truth? What you gonna stand on? Or are you gonna waver? Are you gonna be weak? Right? You gonna be weak? Or you gonna be strong? Stand on it. You gotta stand. You're gonna die for something. Why not die?
That's right. We'd rather live for something. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And I will always say that. Gotta stand for something. Because if you don't, it just doesn't make sense. Why are you here? What brought you here? I will always say that. And that really brings me to the very next method that the FBI or people in that culture actually use to take down different organizations and separate us as a people from actually building a proper community that we actually need. So when it comes to the fifth method, it's actually to undermine public opinion. Now with this one, it's definitely another interest. I mean, it's all interesting to me, especially after you just sit back and think like, wow, I can't believe this is going on. Now, to undermine public opinion is basically a tactic that's actually used in, I would say, all of our communities. The thing that they put in place to really separate us. So to be behind these different engines, behind the computer or using these different bots to just stir away, the real thoughts that we have, to stir away some of the righteous thinkers, it's to undermine. So the thing is, there's public speakers out here that has everything that we need. They know how to really push, such like a Malcolm X. They know how to really push the agenda forward. It's like a Colin Muhammad. They know how to push the agenda forward. And other really dope speakers like that. Even Grandmaster Jay could push. He has the gift of gab. Then you have other people that will undermine it, will kind of turn his audience like, hey, take a look at this. What about this? Have you seen this? To kind of confuse the audience, or kind of put a wrench right in the middle of making the code. Like, hey, before you make the code, think about this. This is to undermine public opinion. Now, as it reads, one of the primary ways of the FBI target organizations was by challenging different opinions, by challenging the code, may have you. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we have so many different organizations. I mean, we talk about Black Lives Matter, and the whole thing was about Black Lives Mattering to law, because in law it almost felt like we don't matter, which we actually found out today, or some of us found out today, that black actually doesn't stand up in a court of law. But at the same time, when it comes to these different organizations throwing a wrench in it, Black Lives Matter also turned into something else. I mean, at first it was a cry for help, but then it turned into Gay Lives Matter. Then it turned into Women's Lives Matter. Then now it's everywhere. That's undermine public opinions. So it's not just about Black lives. What about trans lives? Their lives matter too. Now we everywhere. So you throwing something in the middle, which again causing all type of division. And now if we were on code, we're able to focus on one thing at a time, and we can address it amongst ourselves versus coming out in the public and the other public to say, no, we're about this. Then somebody else said, no, we're about this. And nobody is actually coming together to actually say exactly what we need as a people, So these type of people, this is a tactic that's put in place on purpose to cause all types of divisions, So, I mean, the same thing was put in place even when we were asking for reparations. You know, they had someone to challenge that. They brought someone forward to challenge that. A brother or sister just basically challenged that. They're spreading their own philosophy on exactly what they want to push for versus what's actually needed for our communities. So that's really the fifth point, because I mean, it gets crazy. Yeah, we got people behind YouTube when you don't really know where they come from on YouTube or on different platforms and the news stations and so on and so forth. We even got documentaries of things pushing different agendas that could separate us and things like that. We've seen movies and so on and so forth. These are all strategies. Now, the biggest thing to me is to really know, to really look with our third eye, to actually see exactly what's going on. We should be able to just sit back and listen, and sit back and actually study and understand any type of speaker or propaganda that's put in front of us. We have to be able to actually do our own analysis of what we see, what we hear, and what we think. That way we can move properly and we can know the real from the fake. So we won't be put into any other type of confusion, you know. So the biggest thing is to get to a point where we actually have a code as a people. We have to have a code as a people. You know, we have to look at these different things now. As I bring this to a close for today, because that's the fifth point, sister. I do want you to have the very last point, but I just want to say this: as a people, we really got to find something. We absolutely have to find something that will allow us to be one. We have to be one first, and actually incorporate an actual code, just like every other, you know, species and out here. Because I say species because even animals have a certain code. Everyone on Earth has a certain code that they stand by, that they live by, but us, you know. And I'm going to say yes, us in America, because I'm not even sure about other cultures outside of America, because we know there's melanated people everywhere, but us in America, us melanated people in America, that's where we lack it. It's actually having a code. And once we develop a code, we have these other systems put in place to take us outside of the code. So we have to put emotions aside and just stick to the code. It's the biggest thing. My sister, I want to go ahead and pass it to you. Have you to have the last words, by all means.
So my last word on Cointelpro and social media and the silencing of particular individuals that are speaking out against injustice and calling for our people to rise up and stand against the oppressors. My last word on that is that we have to understand and recognize our enemy. Before you can do that, you have to understand and recognize who you are, and you have to recognize that in order to be led into a better place, you have to be willing to be led. Not everybody's going to agree, but what we have to do is learn how to agree to disagree. And we'll learn how to agree to disagree amicably. Moving forward, for us dealing with Cointelpro, we must stay on code as an individual nation. Scripture say, "Come out of her, my people." That means come out of the government. Let them do them. To stay on code for us as a people right now means to not get involved in this. They're not going to be fighting to the betterment of you. You have to understand that. when the chips fall down, where they will fall down, you will see that the end game was just to, in fact, keep you from rising up, because that's their greatest fear. The whole Cointelpro, that's why they created Cointelpro.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's my final word. And I bid everybody shalom from the bottom of my heart, wherever you may be, scattered throughout this diaspora, the four corners of the earth. I pray that you find out who you are, do the research, read something, read your history, find out who you are, dive deep, and understand that everything that they put in front of you is a smoke screen. You have to listen, study, and understand what's going on around you.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely open up that third eye to see exactly what's going on and move accordingly. So, and that's our show for today. Just definitely wanted to bring that piece forward because we could definitely see what's going to happen next. You know, like we say, today is the inauguration. It's supposed to be a new era, so we have to be very awake. You know, we definitely have to listen to what's going on and definitely study exactly different people movements and how they move, and then understand exactly what we need to do as a people. But peace to everybody that's listening. Peace to the gods. One love. Until next time.
Rainstorm or just the way the waves hit the beach. You know, there's a perfection that we try to approximate. The goal.
Constitutional gifts that they speak so beautifully about.